filming. Booyah! Woo! Oh, yeah! You could win big! But you could also lose. There is risk with online gambling, and that's a reality nobody's shouting about. Learn about safer play at knowtherisks.ca.
Hey everybody, how are you doing? It's your boy DC, Thursday night host of Rogers Out of the Fog.
Right, you kind of got to make your own fun.
Yeah.
Which was a transition for me going into the morning show here.
Proud. Keep doing the amazing work, will you?
They're learning about how to hire people.
20 years of local matter, so join me every Thursday night and see what's going on in the fog.
This is Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 27th Newfoundland and Labrador Book Awards, and this evening celebrating finalists from the 2003 E.J. Pratt Family Poetry Award. My name is Laura Unga. Some of you might recognize me from Rogers TV Out of the Fog. If you don't, it's okay, you can start tuning in from now on. I want to thank everyone for joining us both in person and to our viewers online. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. Before we get started, it would be remiss to start anything without doing a land acknowledgement. So if we could all just take a minute of silence. We would like to respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk. We acknowledge the island of Uktamunguk, Newfoundland, as the unceded territory of the Beothuk and the Mi'kmaq. We acknowledge Labrador as the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Innu of Nitassinan, the Inuit of Nitassiavut, and the Inuit of Nunatukavut. We recognize all First People who were here before us, those who live with us now, and the 7 generations to come. The annual book awards are held by the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador, and WritersNL, to recognize excellence in writing by Newfoundland and Labrador's authors. They are held each year in biannual pairings: poetry and nonfiction 1 year, fiction and children and young adult literature an alternate year. 2003's awards for poetry and nonfiction are this year. Next year will be the fiction and children's and young awards literature. These awards could not be possible without the support of our funders and our sponsors. A big thank you goes out to the E.J. Pratt family for their continued support of poetry genre. Thanks to the Power family for supporting Nonfiction's award. Thanks to all our partners, including Perfect Day, The Telegram, Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, Rogers TV, Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries, and thanks to the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador and the City of St. John's for their support and support of the Writers Alliance and the awards and programs and services. A big thank you this year goes out to our poetry judges, Anik McCassell, Sharon Berg, and Beth Follett. With 19 submissions, they had their work cut out for them. Also, thanks go out to the Literary Awards Committee for all their volunteer time in planning and executing this event. And for that, we have Sonia Boone, Ainsley Hawthorne, Clay Everest, Stacey Oakley, and the WritersNL staff, Jen Windsor and Wendy Rose. The author of the winning book in each category will receive $1,500. 2 runner-ups per category will be selected. Each runner-up will also receive $500. The winner of the Poetry Award will be announced tonight, and the following shortlisted authors' readings. The nonfiction will also be announced. Flip the page. Readings and winners will be announced tomorrow. We're happy to have Rogers TV here to film, and we're also broadcasting to our web audience. And without further ado, let's get started with the readings. As I introduce our shortlisted authors and their works, I will give you a flavor of their books by reading you the jury's remarks. First, I would like to introduce Andrea Callanan. And here's what the jury had to say in. And I'm going to pronounce this very slowly because I almost messed it up. Biblioasis The Debt. Rhythmic and engaging, Andrea Callinan's The Debt offers up a keen observations of the poet's inner and outer worlds. The collection follows its central figure from childhood through to middle age in a well-crafted lyrics that reveal an impressive attention to phrasing and sound. Both burden and blessing, The Debt is at the heart of this book. This is one belonging to a place and a people. With this sense of belonging comes a quiet but consistent current of resistance as Callinan subtly tackles and condemns reductive forces such as sexism, colonialism, from an unconventional sonnet, Corona. It is an understated, unaudible, mispronounced that word, audible, and the poems in this collection offer a formal variation that are once wry and sensitive. The Debt is a most promising and resonant debut. Everyone please help me welcome Andrea Callinan reading from The Debt.
Thank you, Laura Bell, so much. Thank you to the judges. It's quite the honor to be in such esteemed company on this shortlist. Thank you to WritersNL, and thank you all for coming out and for watching. I'm going to begin with a poem for my daughter Bonnie, who turns 20 years old tomorrow. So that means 20 years ago today, I had no idea what I was getting into. So this is a poem called Golden. My daughter can explain it all. The biggest hits of 1929, each step from vaudeville to soundstage, casting and costuming, choreography for triple threats. The slapdash scaffolds of a quick and dirty golden age. I can explain none of it, how this child has outgrown me, her worn pink shoes now larger than my own. This child who began to dance 3 months before she was born. I have no explanation for the dancing. The screen flashes silver while my daughter corrects the turns of dancers long since turned to dust. She breathes her ambition into the air between us. Under the fractal branches of a metallic tree, unnumbered figures swirl in black and white. They spin into a sequined froth, and their point, I am informed, is terrible. And I'm going to read one more little short one. This is for baby me when I was little. This is the final sonnet in the sequence that forms sort of the spine, if you will, of the collection. And when this lives on its own, it's called Piss-a-Beds. But when it's not on its own, it's part of a sequence called Crown. So. And it's a downtown, it's part of my love letter to downtown St. John's in the 80s. But in the spring, such abundance of gold bursting from grim cracks in city sidewalks, nodding, yes, throw your jacket down and sit, small and joyous on the sun-warmed concrete. Raw material for a coronet, fit for an urchin in a tinderbox town. Milky stems stain my skirt where I hold my pulled flowers, stamp a constellation of gasping O's that will never wash out. I slit with my bitten down nails these same stems, slide one through the next till I complete a chain, a circle, a crown, flimsy frame on untamed hair, yellow pollen fallout, sticky, bitter fingertips, my station. Thank you.
That was lovely. I love hearing about the view of downtown in the 80s through your eyes. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to introduce Michael Crummey's Passengers. Michael cannot be here tonight, so Mary Lewis will be reading on their behalf. Here is what the jury had to say about House of Anansi Press Passengers. Michael Crummey achieves a page-turning documentary quality in his verse. This is the most certainly true in his current collection, Passengers. Indeed, he offers a true saga, however imaginative it may be. Passengers present the reader with several stories. One, A Circumnavigation of Newfoundland by a Swedish poet. And I'm going to say this one very slowly because I had Google translate this for me. Thomas Tranströmer. Another travel poem set in European cities. And finally, they are conjured observations of Lucifer in Newfoundland. Recorded by local storytellers across centuries, this book explores the far and distant past as it unearths the truths about the present in a way that gives ordinary events a shimmering quality. Crummy has stitched his various topics together in a compilation that is either the chutzpah from the Yiddish meaning of nerve for nerve, or a hazard from the Arabic meaning for a game of chance. Yet, as always, Crummy's end focus is a deep and loving exploration of the human heart with all its inherent gifts and forebodings. And so, everyone, please help me welcome Mary Lewis reading from Michael Crummy's Passengers.
So, as we heard from our hostess, this book this collection of poems is broken down into 3 sections. First one is called You Are Here, a Circumnavigation. The second one is The Dark Woods, and the last one is Devil Skins. Michael asked me to read from the first one, You Are Here, a Circumnavigation. It starts with a quote from Thomas Tranströmer. Task, to be where I am. Even when I'm in this solemn and absurd role, I am still the place where creation works on itself. Thomas Tranströmer, 1931 to 2015, was a Swedish poet, psychologist, and translator, winner of the 2011 Nobel Prize for Literature. His work explores the wonder and mystery of human consciousness, often using the stark landscape and weather of northern Sweden as a mirror or a foil for his obsessions. What follows are loose, amateur translations of pieces I imagine Tranströmer might have written had he recently visited the island of Newfoundland and the coast of Labrador. I've tried to remain true to the spirit and tone and to some of the most obvious strategies of Tranströmer's poetry, but it goes without saying that these pieces would in every way be superior in the original Swedish. So Michael gave me license to choose, and my first choice is Tranströmer on Signal Hill. No tourist escapes cliché. Some transformative event occurred here on such and such a date. You lean into period photographs for the milky infant scent of the miraculous as it took its first tentative steps. The Narrows below Cabot Tower and the bowl of St. John's Harbor rank with 400 years of sewage. Cameras hover like hummingbirds at a feeder, sipping that poisoned nectar. Your house and its belongings, your mother tongue, the accumulated effects of a life, sit at anchor overhead, listening for a word winging from beyond the ocean you crossed to be here. 100 feet of line is as far as we ever manage to travel from ourselves. But the world beyond us crowds in. Its walls grow thinner over time. Through the partitions, you can hear coughing and running water, the muddy back and forth of conversations behind the locked doors of other centuries. A frail, powdery sound at night as strangers swarm the far side of those dividing curtains, drawn to the glow of your own little light. I'll do one more, and that'll be it. This is Tranströmer on the Blow Me Down Brook Trail. At the trailhead, the remains of 2 poached moose, their long faces placed side by side like plush slippers at the foot of a stair. The limbs discarded in ditch alder. You count several times over before confirming all 8 among the camouflage. The dead world is infinite, or nearly so. It crowds our wake as we travel, as we climb the steps to our beds, though by and large it trails us in anonymous silence. A cow and her yearling, their eyes half closed as if dozing behind a brook, while the irresistible mystery rattles past. In their dreams, they are impossibly light on their black hooves. They are practically weightless.
Thank you so much, Mary. I never thought the meeting of two lands could be so romantic and so tragic as a car accident. Up next, we are going to have Dawn McKay, who is going to be reading from, sorry, I'm a little confused for a second. And thank you so much. We'll have Dawn McKay, who's going to be reading from his. But here is what the jury had to say about McClellan and Stewart's Lurch. In Lurch by Don McKay continues his year-long meditation on the ecology and anthropocence, the fragility of relationships, animals lost to extinction, and an aspect of our physical world far beyond living memory. As said, other McKay's works in his latest collection is a triumph of lyricism, a linguistic orchestration. Griffin Judge's citation. The sheer diversity of his earthly conditions and the interactions and connections he crafts and sounds cadence in his diction, and the sturdy gait of his lyrics result in a lightness and quickness characteristic of his poetry. These poems all point to an extravagant generosity of the poetic spirit. Lurch is filled with elegant, playful, or downright funny verses that move the reader with uncanny tolerance for, as McKay says, the affable, inhuman, and the ancient geological joke. I almost always, not quite, but very nearly get. So hopefully we all get what he was writing as well. Everyone, please let me welcome Don McKay.
Thank you very much. It is it's great to be here in this company to celebrate the vitality and the range of the poetry hereabouts. In Lurch, the three most important words are the dedication. For Stan Dragland. Stan has, since the book was published, passed, of course. But I know he would also be heartened by this demonstration of poetic potency hereabouts. He was such a lover and an astute reader of Newfoundland literature. And he wrote about it often, and he wrote about it with incredible insight. He is so much missed by all of us. I'm glad I dedicated this book to Stan. He was my co-editor, co-publisher, co-founder, colleague, co-conspirator, now and again, over the years. But I do have one regret, and that is, in the early drafts of the manuscript, after it said for Stan Dragland, it also said mencho non-macho. I made that word up, mencho. I just took mensch, which means an admirable human being, and add O, so it could kind of like coordinate with macho. And that was there all the way on, but at the 11th hour, I chickened out. And I thought, I just made up mencho. And also, it had the kind of a ring of the sort of joke Stan would do, and Stan would love. And the kind of joke that Stan and I might get, and nobody else. I said, now I wish I left it in. So if any of you happen to have a copy of the book, write in mencho non-macho, please. Mencho is spelled M-E-N-S-C-H-O. I know because I invented the word. So you can, and if you take a notion, you can add in some Zs or whatever you like, make it seem more exotic. The first poem I'll read is called Snotty Var. And before I came to Newfoundland, I hadn't heard this term. I knew balsam fir, of course. I spent a lot of time in the boreal forest, and it's such a dominant tree there. Snotty, very rosin. It's a very apt term. It's very rosinous. Comes up chainsaws, and also it heals. That's the main point about it. It's better than stitches. The rosin goes by the names of turpentine, frankincense, and myrrh. This has an epigraph from the Dictionary of Newfoundland English. He went out in the garden where there was an abundance of balsam fir, and he brought back a strip of rind on which there were a number of myrrh bladders. He cut open the bladders and squeezed the myrrh on the cut. Of course, the bleeding stopped, and within a few days, the cut had healed nicely. That's from M. Hopkins, quoted in the Dictionary of Newfoundland English. There is a balm in Gilead and also in the boreal forest, where it sometimes goes by balsam fir and sometimes snotty var. Under its bark, the myrrh bulges into blisters, a healing balm, a glue, a gum to chew for exercise and medicine. The dance of snotty var goes slow, 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 up to 80 years or so, then quick. Its seedlings tarry in the shade, dormant, acting as though being shrubs was all they ever wanted, to fur the hillsides so they resemble massive sleeping animals. Then some elders fall, thanks to heart rot or a gale, or both. The canopy gapes, and the little firs get growing, thickening ring by ring and climbing rung by rung, their needles guzzling light while their roots grope sideways over bedrock. Maple occupies the flag. Pine-clad hills, long gone, claim tenure in the ode. But it's snotty var that populates the woods we can't see for the trees, closing companionably around us, oozing snotty wisdom, frankincense, turpentine, and myrrh. This poem is called Rhizosphere, and it refers to what's called the mycelium, which is all the fungal connections, networks underground. Becoming more fungus are becoming, they're becoming into their own. Many mycologists are studying this, and I thought I'd write a poem about the rhizosphere because we don't see it, but it's constantly there. In fact, Faye Murray told me, she's the mycologist, told me that if we didn't have a rhizosphere, a mycelium, we wouldn't have trees on the Avalon. We'd have tuckamore, we'd have shrubs, we'd have tiny little firs, but we wouldn't have trees. Rhizosphere. Let's pause and listen for what's happening underground with the roots, the rhizomes, and their close associates, the fungi and the worms. So much mycorrhizal promiscuity and death, such heavy sinking and sucking among the microbes, so little regard for personal identity and human rights, such continuous French kissing, the birch and the rustle of mushrooms, the boletes and the larch, the pink lady slippers with their special fungal friends, all those hyphae busy hyphenating dung dirt, corpse compost, root rot, the great symbiosis that is soil, the ecstatic, indecent, death-dissolving dance that will one day gather us up. And my last poem is called Neanderthal Dig. The Neanderthals often buried their dead, which was very considerate for later archaeologists coming and discovering them. And they often put objects in the graves. In this particular one, a child was buried on the wing of a swan. Of course, Neanderthals get their name from Neander Vale, right, whereas the first discovery was made. This poem has 2 parts. Neanderthal Dig. When we dug up the grave, we found a child's bones laid on a great swan's wing. They had never been, we thought, the sharpest flints in the cave, with thick skulls evolving towards NFL helmets. We applied their name from Neander Vale, site of the first remains we found, to racists, sexists, and dull bureaucrats. Now we stood abashed, trespassers on grief, thoroughly sapiens with artful implements and wit. What would it be like to be so stricken, with few words to call on heaven, hell, hope, grief? And what sharp words might we, the clever cousins, muster for the child who one day watched a mute swan, wingspan 5 feet, lift from the river in 2 white swipes of Paleolithic air? What manner of wreath might honor this death? Some wing of language entering earth? Wherever you've gone, may your spirit wander, wild as a swan in the Vale of Neander. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank Andrea, Mary, Dawn for their readings. I wanted again to thank our sponsor, the E.J. Pratt family, for their continued support of the NLBAs, and to give thanks to our other 2003 NLBA sponsors, the Power family, Perfect Day, The Telegram, Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, Rogers TV, and the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries. Thanks to the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador, the City of St. John's, for their continued support of the Writers Alliance and these awards and programs and services. These awards could not be possible without the support of our funders and our sponsors. A big thank you to E.J. Pratt family for their continued support of this award. I would like to invite Tim Legrome from the E.J. Pratt family to announce the winner. And then, before we give out the award, I would like to welcome the Writers Alliance President, Ainsley Hawthorne, to say a few words to the family for presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and it means so much to us to be able to offer these awards to recognize the incredible literary achievements that are being made by authors working right here in the province, which we would not be able to do without sponsors like the family of E.J. Pratt, who've been dedicated sponsors of this award for many, many years. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for the literary community.
I cannot accept any credit for any of this. This is actually on behalf of my mother, the great niece of EJ. And this actually comes from her grandfather, who passed his work on to him during her childhood. So that's why this is so important. So thank you. And thank you to everybody who participated. There you go. Okay, so it's my honor to announce the winner of the 2023 E.J. Pratt Poetry and L Book Award to Lurch by Don McKay. You had me at mute. You had me at mute.
And you. Thank you very much.
No worries, sir.
Well, this is such an honor. I know, well, as I was saying, some of the favorite books that have been published in the last couple of years, my favorite books, have been written and right here. And so to be on the short list with Andrea and Michael, what's his name? I don't know anybody else who could channel Thomas Transtrainer like that. And, you know, his tone in that is just perfect. You know, it's great. Plus these Corona sonnets, beyond me. So thank you.